L-O fucking L. Oh, Ubisoft. Oh my god. Alright, so let's talk about Ubisoft. A while back, and by that I mean a few years ago, I made a video where I talked about how I think Ubisoft is the most boring big publisher in existence. I think even at the time, which I think that video came out in like 2019, 2020, maybe even earlier. At that time, I thought Ubisoft was just a big, soulless, identityless mush of sludge. And to this day, they still remain that, but they have gotten even worse from that point. And I would also like to add on that not only do I think Ubisoft is the most boring big publisher in existence, I'd also like to say that Ubisoft is now the most incompetent big publisher in existence. Because, and this is coming from a story, if you haven't heard yet, the CEO, the king clown of Ubisoft himself, Yves Guillemot, came out during their financial report and talked about how they have canceled 3 more unannounced titles in their pipeline. And that was alongside the 4 other unannounced games in their pipeline that they canceled last year. So at this point, Ubisoft has canceled 7 unannounced games, which is by itself fucking laughable. That's hilarious. But they have also delayed yet again Skull and Bones, which is the game that no one seems to give a shit about, and that keeps it's like it's stuck there in the public consciousness, and everyone forgets it exists until there's an announcement like this where they're delaying the release date. Everyone forgets Skull and Bones exists until either a new release date is announced or another delay is announced. It's always how it is. And that's how it always is from my personal experience as well. I have seen nobody of any consequence talk about Skull and Bones and how excited they are for it. Nobody. So I'm going to read the story from Video Game Chronicle, and I'm not going to read the full thing. I'm going to include a link to it though, so you can read it at your own leisure. But the article begins with, Ubisoft has canceled 3 unannounced games and delayed its long-in-development pirate adventure, Skull and Bones, yet again. Announcing the news on Wednesday, the company said it's, quote, and this stuff is coming from Yves Guillemot, it's, quote, facing major challenges as the industry continues to shift towards mega brands and long-lasting titles, i.e. live services, that can reach players across the globe, across platforms and business models. Guillemot continues, however, the games from this investment phase have yet to be released, while our recent launches have not performed as well as expected. And those titles that he's talking about that did not perform as well as expected are Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Just Dance 2023. And then he goes on to say that they also delayed Skull and Bones again, and that it will now arrive early in Ubisoft's next fiscal year, which runs from April of this year until March 2024. And there's a part of me that does not believe him. So Ubisoft continues. Ubisoft claimed the additional time has already paid off and brought impressive improvements to its quality, which has been confirmed by recent playtests, and that it expects players will be positively surprised by its evolution. I've seen that footage that they released very recently about Skull and Bones, and I mean like yesterday I think they released it at the time of recording this, and it looked just as boring now as it did then, so I don't see where these evolutions that I'm supposed to be possibly surprised by are coming from. I don't see it, Ubisoft. I'm sorry, I don't see it, Mr. Guillemot. So, Ubisoft also said that it wants to make some 200 million. I don't know what that currency is. I'm sorry. Euros, I guess. Pounds, euros. I'm sorry. I'm ignorant in that way. In cost cuts over the next 2 years, quote, through targeted reconstructing, divesting some non-core assets and usual natural attrition, while adding that it will, quote, continue to look at hiring highly talented people for its biggest brands and live services. So what he means by that is basically that they are going to have a lot of layoffs. I'm sure they're gonna shut down a lot of the studios that they currently have. I had no idea that Ubisoft's headcount at that company was so astronomically high. Like, when I discovered how many teams they have and how many employees they have, I was dumbfounded. And when I looked at the list of how many subsidiaries they have, I felt like my eyes were gonna start bleeding. And as of May 2021, and I'm getting this quote from this number from Wikipedia, who they themselves linked it from an Ubisoft press kit from 2021, back in May 2021. They had, at the time, as of May 2021, they had more than 20,000 employees working in over 45 studios. And I'd like to ask, why does Ubisoft need more than 20,000 employees working in over 45 studios? And I'm sure that number is bigger today, or maybe since before this report came out. Because if Ubisoft wants to survive, I'm sorry, but they're gonna have to kill off some of these studios. Like, this list is absolutely insane. This list is just nuts. Like, oh my god, it's just how many teams they have is absolutely crazy to me. And I just can't figure out how they reached this point or why they feel the need to have this many teams. Like, I know they need multiple teams to work on like Assassin's Creed games or their big open world extravaganzas that they make, but I'm sorry, even then those games come out buggy and bland, and they just have this like Ubisoft lack of polish on them, this stink on them. They're not Rockstar, where Rockstar's games utilize their entire team, their entire number of subsidiaries that they have, which I think is like 9 or 10. That's understandable because Rockstar games, they are so extravagantly detailed to the point of being insane that they need those teams. That I understand, having that many teams around to make one game. And it's also got that Rockstar polish to it. But when I look at Ubisoft, I'm like, what the fuck? What? Why do you need like this many teams to make a buggy ass Assassin's Creed game? Like, why do you need this? I just don't get it. And what's also funny to me about this regarding like Skull and Bones is that Ubisoft is just, on top of just the gargantuanly excessive amount of teams and employees they have, they're also really bad at managing their games in their pipeline. I mean, you don't even need to look any further than Skull and Bones, but look at fucking Beyond Good and Evil 2. Look at that. Look how long that has been in development. And I think that has even broken the record for the game that's been in development held the longest. I think it broke Duke Nukem Forever's record. And that shouldn't fucking happen. So, and Beyond Good and Evil 2, here's the thing too, is that Ubisoft is extremely out of touch with what their player base wants. And I'm not talking about like the normie people, the casual gamers that will buy an Assassin's Creed or a Far Cry every time it comes out. I'm talking about the people who understand Ubisoft's legacy. I'm talking about people from the fucking old school Tom Clancy days, the old school Rayman days, the old school Prince of Persia days, that back then Ubisoft had an identity. And now Ubisoft is just this desperately flailing around like mess of sludge that jumps on every single bandwagon imaginable. I give EA a lot of shit for chomping at Activision Blizzard's flavor all the time, but Ubisoft are like the kings of that. Ubisoft jumps on every bandwagon that comes out and they go into it hard. Whatever they think will make them a fast buck, they'll go hard into that shit. Whether it's multiplayer, microtransactions, live services, subscription services, cloud gaming, NFTs, like they are always there. Anytime a new fad begins, Ubisoft is always there on the front line, ready to like lead the charge into this new fad, whether it will be successful or not. And you can look no further till like their recent shit with Ubisoft Quartz, where they thought it was a good idea to start doing NFTs and the blockchain shit in like every fucking thing they want to start releasing now. And then I'm pretty sure a lot of those unannounced games that got canceled were like NFT based things, because they got so much shit for that Ubisoft Quartz thing that they tried pulling. And let's talk about mega brands for a second. This is something that they mentioned in their article. And this to me shows where Ubisoft's mindset has continued to stay. Where they are one of these publishers, and to their credit, and I will give a company like EA a smidgen of credit, is that they, at this point, they still have their live services that they piggyback off of, like FIFA, like Madden, Apex Legends. They still have them. But at this point, I think EA have learned that a game that is single player only, that is not some like big behemoth open world extravaganza, can be successful. They learned that from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. They learned that from It Takes Two and A Way Out. They clearly believe in these kind of games, because within the next few months we're going to be getting not only Dead Space remake, but Star Wars The Jedi Survivor from them. So to their credit, they seem to have learned that somewhat. And same thing with Capcom. And it's like Capcom, they were in a very, not exactly like Ubisoft, but they were in a similar situation a long time ago, where they were like all in on all these different fads, and they tried all these different things, and they strayed so far away from their identity that it almost cost them dearly. But for some reason, I don't know what happened, they finally pulled their head out of their ass, they got their act together and started their comeback with Resident Evil 7 back in 2017. And since then, they have just been on a roll since then, releasing like banger after banger after banger. And here they are now, where they are more successful than ever. They're releasing games that sell like gangbusters, and they're not these like disgusting, desperate live service garbage dumpster fires like what Ubisoft seems to release nowadays. That's like the only thing they make now, aside from the occasionally like outside of the wheelhouse thing, like Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, like the Valiant Hearts sequel that's gonna only be coming on Netflix. So fuck you, Ubisoft, for that. Like at this point, Ubisoft is going all or nothing. This is basically what they want to start doing with this mention of mega brands, where they're like, oh, well, we're gonna start experimenting even less than we already are now. We're going to cancel some things that maybe are a little risky, and we're just gonna go all in on the mega brands that you guys want. We're gonna go all in on Assassin's Creed. We're gonna go all in on Far Cry. We're gonna go all in on Tom Clancy. And oh boy, I hope you guys are ready I hope you Assassin's Creed fans are ready for the fucking bukkake of Assassin's Creed games that are going to come out, even beyond the ones that have already been announced. I hope you're ready for more. I hope you love every single little bit of it. Same with Far Cry. I hope you love Far Cry, because after Far Cry 6 was one of the few big successes they've had this generation. Oh boy, I hope you're ready for more Far Cry. And this is a thing where they are so obsessed with making games that are like gangbusters, that sell like millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of copies, and have this recurrent user spending shit with the microtransactions. That's all they care about now. That's all they give a fuck about. They're not going to give a fuck about smaller games. They're not going to give a fuck about more experimental titles. They're not. That's Ubisoft. This is the new Ubisoft now. A boring, incompetently run publisher that I would not be surprised gets bought out by Tencent in a few years' time, because that seems to be the way the wind is blowing. So I'll end this with a good luck, Ubisoft. I hope this new mega brand shit works out for you in the end. And yeah, basically a confirmation that I don't think Ubisoft and I will have much of a future anymore, even based on what very little future, what little present we currently have. So yeah, good luck, Ubisoft, you bunch of clowns.